the company should never need to know in advance which one is the responsible agency.
Welcome to the Swisspreneur Show, a podcast about startup stories and hands-on learnings from experienced entrepreneurs. Here's your host, Sylvan.
Martin, a very warm welcome to the Swisspreneur Show. It's a pleasure to have you here today.
Thank you, Sylvan, for inviting me.
You are the head of SME policy at the State Secretariat of Economic Affairs here in Switzerland, in short, SECO. And you and your team are also the brains and the people behind the e-government solution in Switzerland, EasyGov. So maybe to start with the first question, why is an e-government solution actually necessary? What's the rationale behind that?
Yeah, e-government for companies means and wants to make their life easier. It should be quick, it should be anytime, 24 hours a day, and that you can find everything easily at one place for the company.
Got it. And what was like the take that you said, hey, now we really need to push this topic? What was, the goal or the reason that you actually started to put money, time, and effort into such a solution?
Well, the opportunity was clear and the need was clear too, but nobody was doing it. So we felt we had to do it because it needed a unique combination of skills on the technological side, but then also the possibility on the political level to act.
Right. We're going to dig deeper into these two topics, but first we want to know what EasyGov actually is. So you started in 2017. That's when you launched in November 2017. So what does the platform actually offer to startups and companies in general?
Yes, the platform aims to offer everything a company needs during its lifetime when it comes to business to government interaction. All of these, what it needs first to establish a company, and then afterwards, all kinds of permits that you need to function. So that could be like changing your business registry entry. That could be to get a support for a guaranteed loan by the government. That could be various kinds of such type of business to government interactions. Mm-hmm.
Are there also specific areas where you say this is not what EasyGov is designed for? So also specific topics where you say, well, this might make sense, but this is really not our focus. So on purpose, we don't offer these services.
Not really. Well, we focus on business to government. So of course, business to business, we are not including. Right. We also have to see that we keep a competitive neutrality. Mm-hmm. When it comes to business offerings, so that is not included. However, all the applications to governments, that's what we're aiming at. Of course, step by step, because there are a lot of government applications and decisions, and it's a step by step process.
Got it. We will look at the functionalities in more detail a bit later on. We had one question that came from the audience. People always like to compare, and Estonia was mentioned very often. So people also asked, is Switzerland not a bit late to the digital party if you compare ourselves to Estonia? How do you see that?
Yeah, when you go back a few years, I would say at that time, Estonia was definitely ahead of Switzerland. Today, I'm not as sure anymore. I wouldn't say that. Of course, we are still lacking important fundamentals for e-government, digital government in general. However, when it comes to the platform, EasyGov.Swiss, and we compare that with the platforms of other countries, which we have done, and we also had our own employees to get access to these. They got registered so that we could look inside the application, because one always have to be a little bit careful, not just to judge it based on the nice website, but you have to go inside and then you have to go through a process and see how is it done. And if we compare that, we would say EasyGov.Swiss is doing a very good job.
Got it. You mentioned the things, the fundamentals that are still lacking. What are you thinking about in that regard? What is still missing in terms of e-government in Switzerland?
Yeah. The key element is government-regulated electronic identity. That is the key element missing. And together with that, or combined with that, is then that the electronic signature becomes more widespread. Now, these are the electronic signature already exists today. However, it's not widespread. People don't use it, people don't have it, and it's a cumbersome process to get there. Mm-hmm. When we get the electronic identity, then it will be much easier, first, even to conclude contracts or finalize applications without a signature, because the system will recognize who is on the other side, and if that other side says, yes, I agree to something, click on a box, it will be like a signature. And there, where by law a signature is requested, for these situations, then we have the electronic signatures. But all these hinge on that very crucial element. And so we often, at the moment, still have the situation where people do have to, if they don't have an electronic signature, they do have to sign a paper, unfortunately.
Right. I also wonder about the challenge now. We talked about the challenge of not having a digital identity, basically. Another challenge that you could see in Switzerland is, the way that our system is set up with all the different cantons that probably also want to have a say in developing the solution and so on. So in what way has that also supported or actually hindered the development of EasyGov?
Yes, a federal system as Switzerland knows it, with the 3 layers. You have the city level, you have the cantonal level, and you have the federal level. Each of these 3 levels works very independently. And I would say, in addition to that, each of these 3 levels have, of course, different ministries and services, and they also work largely independently of each other. So each one is doing their own platforms and doing their own initiatives. So we have a multitude of digital initiatives in Switzerland, and that certainly, in a certain way, makes it more difficult to provide an integrated offer to the company. That would be much easier if you're in a central state or in a very small central state like Estonia or other countries who are more central. However, I would like to draw the attention to that. Any type of platform must recognize that it is not the only platform, and it is always part of some larger ecosystem. However broad and large and good a platform is, it is not the only one. And those who start with a more centralized approach, it usually takes them very long time to understand this. And then it's usually a big challenge for them to change the philosophy of their platform to become just a part of an ecosystem. Meanwhile, in our situation, it's slower to build up, but we build it up from the beginning, part of an ecosystem, and not believing that this is the only platform that exists and it's everything that exclusively works through there. No, we have to think about how do we work together with other platforms. And that's an important part, which I think over the longer term will be a big advantage that EasyGov will have.
Yeah, and you already implement that by design from the start.
Yes.
That's the huge advantage that you have. So how do you actually integrate with all these different levels? Do you provide any APIs, or how do you integrate with the cantonal or the city level, for example?
Yes, at the moment we have about 5 different integration patterns, how a service can be integrated into EasyGov.Swiss. And that integration pattern largely depends on the digital maturity of the partner, and also if the other partner has some strong opinion how the integration should be done. That can also be the case. But so we are working with partners that actually say, have a very low maturity level of digital maturity, and they want to have that at the end of the day, a paper goes out, signed by hand, put in a mailbox, and sent in by mail. That is unfortunate. However, okay, that is possible. That we can say if you have process X and it has to go to the agency A, then you have to have the letter. Meanwhile, if you have the process X and it goes to agency B in another canton, they are on the let's say in our view like on the highest level of maturity, which means they have an API integrated. We connect directly to the API. We transmit all the structured data. We get the structured data back and represent everything, including signatures, the electronic signature if necessary. All this happens then differently. But then our system can accommodate to all maturity levels of the various agencies, which at the same time we hope that over time the general level increases everywhere.
Do you already see a trend going in that direction since you launched in 2017?
Yes, definitely. We see that the API, people understand slowly that this is where we are generally heading to. And even if they are not yet at that level, at least that they understand that the transmission of structured data is to their own great benefit.
Right. In what way, if they don't understand that?
Well, for us it's obvious, and maybe for you too, Silvan, it's obvious that if we send structured data in an electronic format, then this data can be automatically transferred into the database of the agency, and the quality of the data that is transmitted and that is integrated into the database is much higher than if you send, let's say, a PDF that has to be scanned and then put into a database. There can be all kinds of errors, or even worse, if you send a letter and somebody is typing this stuff, and this still happens. It still happens. So the agencies at the various level of maturity degrees make their own steps. Some understand, well, okay, we have to get into the structured data business. We have to have databases that are well done. Then they understand that actually they don't need all these data typists who are putting the data manually in, either because they are receiving structured data or they have very good scanning services that can transmit it. Then over time they understand, well, just to get the structured data as such is even better than the scanning service, and so on and so forth, and then you can integrate various elements into structured data. And if you have the APIs, you have, and on both sides, on our sides of course as well, you can do a very quick forth and back. So theoretically, we're not yet at that point, but theoretically it is possible that an application is sent now out to the agency from EasyGov to an agency, and the agency would be possible to receive it electronically, treat it automatically, and then give a few seconds later the decision back and says it's all okay. That is not yet the case, but that is the vision where we want to be. That like 90% of applications can be treated electronically at the end of the day. But that's the back-end process that has to be done within the agency. EasyGov is only the front end where we make sure that it's easy for the company to interact with the government.
Got it. And yeah, in the end, for the government agencies, it's pretty clear. The data quality is better, it's improved, less errors, and in the end, they also save time and money. So it seems
Absolutely.
Like a clear win-win.
Absolutely. And I would add one point. One is the structured data, but the other one is also how do you get to that structured data? What we see in many cases is that you have some type of a form that you just have to fill in. And that approach has a lot of risks in it, and is, in our view, not a good approach or not a better approach. There are better approaches than that. Because first, we want, if you have basic data about a company, we want that this data is not plugged in by the company itself by hand. My company's name is X and my address is Z and whatever. Because you can make all kinds of mistakes, or you write in different places and whatever. Meanwhile, we have an enterprise unique identifier system, the UID system, from the Federal Office of Statistics, and EasyGov checks back with the registry there. You have a number from the company and takes the data from there and plugs it into any type of procedure that you want to do as a company. So already this data will never be asked from the company when it makes an application. That reduces not only the time that is necessary to do it, but it's also reducing the errors that can be done. And then you are sure that the agency that is somewhere over here that receives the requests has really high quality data, because this is from another legally binding registry coming out. And then another thing is, why these forms are not good, we want to have a guided process. We offer a guided process where questions are asked to the company when they make an application. The idea behind is that usually you need to know something about the legal situation or conditions when you apply for whatever type of a procedure. You go through whatever type of procedures. Most people don't know these legal aspects. And so depending on the answers to one or the other question, you go down a different path. And we want that the company automatically is taken on that path, and not like, you're asked 25 questions that are actually not relevant if you respond to no one before. But in normal forms, you have to fill in everything, right. And you have no idea why is this and why is that. Actually, it's not even applicable to it. And so this type of support that gives a very high level of security to the user, that is also very well received. We get a lot of feedback from the users, and they explicitly write about this. I felt like I was taken by the hand, and I was totally clear what I had to do and how it worked, and that's what we're aiming for.
Nice. So this is so much more beyond just the pure data quality. It's
Absolutely.
Much more also about the customer journey, as we see when we interview startups, right?
Absolutely.
And that's
customer journey.
Awesome.
Customer journey. And the experience, that at the end you have a good feeling, you have done it, it's clear, and you really know how this data came about. At the end, of course, it shows you all the data package that is established, and it creates a lot of goodwill when they go through. Yeah.
And, talking about support, we talked about the challenges now, not having a digital ID, also the system in Switzerland, which can also be a supporter or a supporting function in that regard. Who else comes to mind when you think about the supporters of EasyGov? Who helped you to really get to the point where you are today?
Well, number one, definitely at the time, it was the Minister of Economic Affairs, Federal Councillor Schneider-Ammann. He supported it from the very beginning, and that was crucial that we had this support. Then we got immediate support from the business federations, the two large business federations in Switzerland. That was another very early time support we got. There are several members of parliament that are very interested in it and support it, which is also important to have that kind of support. And then slowly things are building up. The organization e-Government Switzerland. That is an organization constituted by federal, cantonal, and municipal representatives. they supported it from day one as well. So those were key pillars of support from the beginning.
Got it.
Before we continue with the show, we'd like to introduce you to Swisspreneurs' main partner, Clara Business, the digital all-in-one solution for small businesses. Managing internal processes manually and on paper wastes an incredible amount of time. That's why Clara digitizes everything, allowing you to focus on what really matters, your core business. Go to clara.ch to find out how your business administration can be simpler, faster, and more efficient. Again, that's clara.ch. And now, on with the show.
So now let's walk us through the EasyGov platform from a startup perspective. So what can I as a startup actually do? Can you walk us through the life cycle and give us a few examples what I can actually do on the platform and how that makes my life easier?
Sure. So you start, you register yourself first as a person. And then afterwards, you see, do you already have an established company or not yet? If not yet, then you can check what do I need to do to establish a new company. So it shows you what would be the best approach and the best form. And then you can decide, yes, I want to do that. And then you can establish your company through the procedure that is directly offered on the platform. That procedure actually implies 5 parallel procedures to 5 different agencies, but you do only one procedure. This is another very big advantage for EasyGov, which, by the way, even in centralized states and centralized solutions, is not automatically given. It does not mean that if you are in a centralized platform, that automatically, let's say, the Ministry of Finance, the business registry, and the social insurance application, that you don't have to do 3 processes individually. That is only if somebody step back, bundles them. We call it bundling, right. Bundling these processes, because you see, you need all these 5 processes if you want to establish a company. But these 5 processes in itself have no connection. And so we guide it through one process, and at the end, the data goes to 5 different agencies. So once you have done that, then you have established your company. Then afterwards, you can do other things. Of course, all the business registry changes that you want to do one day, like changing the name, like changing the address or whatever. Then we have a tool to register your brand, a connection to the Institute of Intellectual Property Right. We have the possibility that you get a secured loan that is provided by a government-approved agency, that this agency can bring forward a support guarantee so that you can get a bank credit. And we have a lot of other elements that I need to look at the list, because we have over 30 procedures today, what you can do with it. Another, of course, important part is if you want to know whether your track record on payment has been good or not. Right. It's called in German the Betreibungsauszug, Betreibungsregister. So it's the registry of legal pursuits for unpaid bills. That's a very important procedures. Then you can indicate your salary for social insurance deduction, and you can get you can make also information on the Gazette for business registry publications. That's like a different thing beside the business registry itself. So that's approximately 30 procedures, and every 6 months we add more procedures.
Nice. what's also really attractive to me as a startup is, with all the 5 different services that you mentioned as example before, I go through your process once and then you distribute that to the relevant services. That way, as a startup, I also don't forget to register anywhere where I'm supposed to. And that's super crucial, because if I start my company for the first time, I might not know all the things that are actually out there that I need to take care of. So that's also fantastic to have everything in one place. Now with Corona that hit us earlier this year, you also established new forms of COVID loans, I think, through the platform. So can you also talk a bit more about how you support the companies on your platform in that regard?
Yes, the government has decided early this year to provide government-backed bank loans. And that was done with the aim to support companies with liquidity in very short time and at the least bureaucratic way possible. So that was the idea. And the Minister of Finance, Uli Maurer, he said, I want to give the opportunity. You can get this bank loan in an hour or in 2 hours, whatever, but in really short time. And at the same time, we have about 121 banks participating in this program. Mm-hmm. And we needed to make sure that the application procedure would be very clear and simple and unified for everybody in Switzerland. So the way we did this was through EasyGov. We established a procedure in EasyGov so that everybody who wanted to have a bank loan goes through a guided process, as I indicated it before. At the end, a credit agreement would be established, and that one then you would send to the bank of your preference. And up to today, we have more than 135,000 credit loans that were established through this procedure.
Nice. I also saw it and I think it looked fantastic. It was so easy, and you can then just send the PDF to your bank and it was done.
Right.
That's the way it should be.
And we could even think about making it better and even more digital. But I have to indicate that this we had to do within about 14 days. Yeah. And whoever has ever done an IT project, it never takes 14 days. And maybe the very first prototype. And the 14 days were including in the 14 days were the establishment of the legal basis. So it meant that the legal basis was done at the same time as we programmed the whole thing. So it was not that the programmer, usually they ask, what are the requirements?
Right.
Please tell us the requirements. Then we program it and we say to them, no. We have a general idea, but the requirements are not clear. We will know them maybe like 5 days before we go live. And so we had to design everything in a way, yes, we build up as much as we can and we program as much as we can, and then certain modules we had to leave open and then to fill them at the very last moment when the political decisions were made.
Wow. How were you able to pull that off? Because that's not what people think of when they think about a government IT project. Usually they think that takes several years to complete, right? Not 14 days.
Yes. Well, I have to say, we have a very good team in EasyGov that is already there. And I think that was one important part, that we didn't have to come up with a new team and a new approach, but it was built on pre-existing team. And then we are working with private companies. So it's not the government who is programming and doing this stuff. We have 2 companies that we're working with, very well established ways and procedures, and we know each other personally and we know who is doing what. Right. We have trust in each other, and we integrate these private companies from day one into the discussion. So their representatives are part of our internal discussions when it comes to the implementation, and not just at the very end when you tell them, hey, you should do this. Then it's usually more complicated, but they are thinking with us from day one how we can do it in the best way, which was a great key to success.
Got it. So now usually companies, they also use other services or work with other people like their bookkeepers, their accountants. In what way does EasyGov also offer any integrations with these third-party providers?
Yes, this is an important part because, as you say, most of the companies work in one way or the other with third-party providers, and they have the opportunity to give to these third-party providers the mandate to work for them on the EasyGov platform. Either be it for one particular service, to do one particular type of procedure, or in general, do everything for them on the platform. It's a very easy process how you mandate somebody else that they can work on your behalf.
Got it. So if you had to summarize why a startup should use EasyGov in 3 points, which 3 points would you mention if you had to choose only 3?
Well, there is no easier way than through EasyGov, and there is no cheaper way, because everything else will cost you more money and more time.
Talking about cost, what does it cost to use EasyGov?
The platform is free of charge to use it. Then, of course, each application in itself with that particular agency can cost something, as it does also when you do it through any other way or of means, but the platform itself is free of charge.
Have you thought about asking for money to use the platform, or why did you choose to go for a free model?
Yeah, no, we didn't. I mean, we considered that, but we clearly ruled it out. The interesting element is that the running cost of that platform is very much stable compared to the number of procedures we have on it.
Right.
So whether we have 10 or 20 or 30 or 50, it doesn't really change a lot in terms of procedures, of costs. And so what we want to have is as many procedures as possible to be on the platform. Then, of course, this would distribute along all these procedures. And what we proposed to the Parliament was this should be free of charge and it should be available to everybody. It will also boost digitalization as such, because companies maybe who were less digital in the past, they go on the website and they register and they see, oh, this is quite easy. I can do that. I don't need to be in any way IT trained to do these procedures, and helps them to get on the way of digitalizing themselves. And it was clearly supported politically that there should be no charge.
Was there also any sort of business case where you said, hey, if we get so and so many companies on board, that's the amount of time and also money in the end that we can save in our government agencies? Or didn't you do any of these calculations?
Yes, we have every couple of years we do a review, or actually it's the University of St. Gallen who has done the review. They make an exact assessment of how much time do you effectively need less when you go through an EasyGov procedure compared with a normal procedure. Then they, once they have compared that, then they calculate how many people effectively used it, and how many procedures were done. And so they calculate for each year, compared to the cost, what was the net gain. And we always had many, now I don't remember the exact number, but we have always had a net gain of several million Swiss francs, where the general overall benefit is much, much higher than the use. And also the customer base had to grow up. We also have to see that. We started from zero at the end of, it was really end of 2017. Now we are at about 32,000 users, more or less, companies using this registry, registered users. And so the more companies we have, the more monetized value this brings. And we can show effectively that this is way, way bigger value provided than the cost it costs.
Absolutely. So I think the advantages, they are very obvious and clear. You already mentioned in the beginning that people that don't see all the advantages but also want to highlight some of the drawbacks. Basically, they focus mainly on privacy. So obviously, you also collect some data with your platform. So how do you actually protect the privacy, and what do you do with the data that you collect through the platform?
Yes, there are different aspects to this. Now, number one is, of course, all the data are stored within the government protected, firewall protected servers and so on. That's very important. So this is not with any third-party providers. This is not the private company that I mentioned before. They are just doing the development of the platform, but the data and the running of the data, the operations of the data is done by the government, the federal government itself. So that is an important part for the safety. And then the other element is that the company itself can always see what are the kind of data stored, what is the data that is there. The data that is there, we have to say, is only stored there for the customer's own benefit. So this is not for any other use. No other government agency can just access this data. This is exclusively stored for the user himself, so that when the next time he goes on, not everything has to be retyped. Right. And of course, the company is always free to eliminate everything, delete the account, and all the data is deleted and eliminated.
Makes sense. Yeah. You already mentioned the users that you currently have, so we are also curious to hear about the future. What big features have you planned over the next months and years? Anything that you can share with us on the roadmap?
Yeah, sure. So in the winter 21-22, and probably it will be in about January, February 21, we will have a new service, a very important service that is actually by a department colleague within SECO that is responsible for the applications for the irregular hours. So if you have employees that work in the evening, or they work during nights, or they work on Sundays, then you need a special permit to do that. You have to make an application, and then you get the permit that these people can work during that time. And that will be offered through EasyGov. And what is a little bit particular here is that it will be the only exclusive way how to make that application. So there is no paper-based procedure. You have to do it digital, and there is only the EasyGov portal, which we hope will also draw more companies on the site, and then because they want to do this one particular procedure, and then they can see, oh, I already have all this data from my company there, and I see I have other procedures. I could also do other procedures. So we think like in Amazon, you pay one book, and then you see, this other book is also interesting. Why don't I buy this one too? This is kind of this cross-selling idea we apply here. So that's for then. Then another very important element is that during the year 2020, 21 and or until 22, we will start progressively with permits for foreign workers that companies have to request for when they want to employ a foreigner to work within Switzerland in a company. This type of procedure only exists in an electronic way in about 4 or 5 cantons in Switzerland. So in the large majority of the cantons, you cannot do this in any digital way. And as it is not always clear to whom to make the application, EasyGov will also give a big support here. This is another principle that we want to and that we implement into all procedures. The company should never need to know in advance which one is the responsible agency, because maybe you don't know. You are a company that has the official seat in place A, you have a subsidiary in place B within Switzerland, and you have a foreigner working in place B but is living actually in place Z. So now the question is, to whom shall I make this application so that this person can effectively live in Switzerland and be here? This is not obvious. If you don't know the legal basis, you don't know. That means EasyGov automatically has all these rules and regulations programmed. You don't need to know it. You just have to say, I need to employ, you have the data from your company, data from the others, and the system automatically determines actually at the end, data will be sent to this agency. That's the right one. And on the other hand, these procedures are quite complex. So there's lots of data involved, and it's not easy and not an easy procedure. And there, this digital guided process will be of even bigger importance than anything else before.
Got it. So this really makes me confident about the future of Switzerland, to have a good navigator through the jungle sometimes.
Yeah, right. We hope so too. Right.
So thank you so much for taking us behind the scenes of EasyGov. I think that was a really interesting journey to listen to and to learn more about. Before we wrap up the episode, I have 5 rapid fire questions for you.
Great.
I either give you a selection or a short question, and you can answer in 1 or 2 sentences. Are you ready?
Ready.
Apple, Google, or Microsoft?
Personally, Apple.
Why?
It gives a customer experience in an integrated way that for me is just the most convenient. I totally understand that in terms of a freedom searching system, it is not necessarily the best. But it's interesting. This is also a discussion when I talked before about the ecosystem, where we see that highly centralized or guided system like Apple, they are moving more and more to ecosystem orientation. I mean, they had to do that with their app stores and so on. They have to do it more and more with their iOS and how it works together with other systems and so on. So they are gradually going over there. But as a user, I'm very happy to have everything integrated, well functioning, and so on. But of course, the combination that you gave was a let's say an interesting combination, because that you mentioned also Google, if I understand right, which in my view is not really an either or question, because I use both, of course. Apple doesn't offer these type of services, and so I think we will need all of them. Although I hope we will get a higher diversity of these very strategic tech offerings. At the moment, it's quite concentrated, and I'm confident that this will change, and we will see more players on the board.
Who knows? Maybe also a Swiss or at least a European company playing along there.
Yes. Unfortunately, that is quite a challenge. If I had to make a bet, I would rather say we will see first Chinese companies on that level and that board. But the more we are getting into ecosystems approaches, where you can actually have like niche players playing strategically important roles or making offerings, the more I think also European players will come in.
Got it. The next question for you, lakes or mountains?
Both. I like mountain lakes.
Perfect combination.
Absolutely. That doesn't need to be any exclusion to it.
Makes sense. Zurich or Bern, if you had to choose one?
Well, I live in Bern. I like Bern very much. I lived also a couple of years in Zurich, but Bern has a smallness that I like. Yeah.
Got it. What makes you smile?
I'm an optimistic person, and whenever I see that things fall in place, that makes me smile.
And where do you go to think?
I like to think when walking, I like to think like in a let's say, it's not that I foresee now I will go to think about this, but it's happening. It's like subconsciously, you walk around, you meet people. If life is not super busy, if you're not stressed or under pressure all the time, but you can just, you just go for a walk and without any type of goal, no goal orientation, then things happen. This is very interesting.
That's where the magic happens.
Absolutely.
Martin, thank you so much for taking us on the journey about EasyGov. It was a pleasure talking to you, and we wish you all the best and lots of success for the future.
Thank you very much. It was a great honor to be with you.
Now that you've finished listening to the episode, why not top it off with a quick rating on Apple Podcasts? It's one of the best things that you can do to help us reach more entrepreneurs just like you.